Hello, hello. So glad to see you all here at our last speaker series for 2023. It's been a wonderful season with great topics, and we look forward to rolling out another presentation series in 2024. For our last speaker series, we thought it was appropriate to focus on the upcoming holiday season. And we are very lucky to have Pastor Schaefer here to talk to us about making the most of the holiday season. It's a very joyous time for us, but it also does have some challenges. And we have asked him to speak to those challenges and to give us some assistance and guidelines for help making our holiday season the very best it can be. Reverend Schaefer and his wife Joan have joined us. Okay, they've been Lake of the Woods residents for 25 years. Joan is a retired special education teacher. Your life must be a lot easier now than it used to be. Their daughter, Chelsea Such, has just completed a medical mission in Honduras. So I know you're very happy to have her safe and home. When I was getting to know Reverend Schaefer, something that really tickled me is he has some roots in Indiana. And both of my grandparents lived in Indiana, and it was always a real highlight for me to go there every summer and see them and my gazillion cousins. And he obtained his bachelor's degree, his bachelor's degree from Cleveland State, his master's degree in counseling from Ball State in Indiana, and his seminary degree from Asbury Theological Seminary. I'm sure many of you know him as the pastor emeritus at Lake of the Woods Church, and he's a counselor at Worthmore Counseling in Locust Grove. So I can't think of anybody who is in better shape to discuss this subject. So we do welcome you and thank you for joining us.
Well, it is a real joy to be here today, and so many people's faces are friends and familiar to me, and then there's some new, and I'm so glad to be here. And I don't come here as an expert on the topic. We're all on the journey forward, right? So we've been through many Christmases, and we've all learned some things, and hopefully as I'm talking along, if you want to just raise your hand and ask a question or make a comment, that would be welcome, and we'll maybe have some question and answer at the end too. Our topic today is how to make the most of the holidays, but we won't be talking about how to make a better Thanksgiving meal or Christmas decorations or recipes or anything like that. The holiday can be filled with family and fun and faith and much joy, but the holidays can also create additional stress for so many. And today I want to look at some of the triggers of holiday stress and how to deal with the anxiety or depression that often results from these triggers, and how we can actually maybe push back against depression and anxiety, not only at the holidays, but all year round, really. So on slide 1 we have here the triggers during the holidays. One of them is a loss of family or friends. Most all of us here have lost a family or a friend. And in holiday time, the memories come back, don't they? And the traditions and the gatherings of our favorite people. And when somebody's missing, even if they've been missing for 20 years or more, we notice them, that they're not there. And it can create a sadness, a sense of loss, and even depression. So that's one of the triggers of stress during the holidays, is the loss of family or friends. Another one is poor health. The holidays require energy and time, don't they? And but if you're sick, you don't have the energy, and you're probably spending your time with the doctors. So it can decrease your energy and mood and decrease your social interaction with people. And so poor health can trigger holiday stress and anxiety and depression. Another common trigger at holiday time is the loss of mobility at holiday time. Some people don't get around as well as others, and that creates a bit of isolation, and it's heightened sense of isolation at holiday time because there's so many functions to go to, and you may feel isolated if you can't attend. Another trigger, too much to do and eat. The excesses of the holiday create fatigue, anxiety, financial stress. It's little wonder that January and February, the calls for counseling start pouring in. The two highest months of the whole year are post-holiday.
Wow.
Yeah, every year. Every year. The holidays are really tough on people. And that's in part because of this next one, unrealistic expectations at holiday time. We've had so many romanticized holidays of the past that we think of as sitting on the swing, or what, just all these holiday memories we have, and we want this one to be one more. But a lot of times it isn't. It's good, but it doesn't often measure up to our expectations because they're maybe romanticized expectations a bit. And the last one I want to mention, probably not in your family, but in so many, family drama. Well, you get the family together and they're not used to being together and they got unresolved issues of the past and all these other triggers going on. It creates a little drama sometimes, some families, and people are on edge because they know that can happen. And so that just can add to the stress at the holiday time. So these are just some of the many triggers that trigger stress and anxiety and depression during the holidays, and yet there are high expectations of the holidays, that they are going to give us this social respite that we need from our work every day, and we're going to get together family and friends, it's going to be wonderful, and yet sometimes there's a lot of stress involved. How many of you still with me while I'm talking about it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. I'm not the only one. So what I want to do is, in the next slide, bring up a working definition of what do we mean when we say anxiety? What is anxiety? How does anxiety work? And how can we push back against it? And for a moment or two I'll get a little technical, but I'll get through it. But so hang with me. It's important that we understand what we're talking about. What is anxiety actually? And the anxiety is the interplay between two perceptions at the same time. One is our threat. Anxiety always involves a threat, something that we're afraid of or we're worried about, a threat. And anxiety comes when we begin to overestimate the threat. At the same time, we begin to underestimate our resources to meet it. When you start overestimating your threats and underestimating your resources, science has found you must become anxious. You will become anxious. The calmest person on earth, if they overestimate their threat and underestimate their resources, will increase their anxiety. It's just a fact. And that's essentially what anxiety is. The interplay of two, you might say, false perceptions, unrealistic, not somewhat unbalanced perceptions of reality. And those faulty perceptions then are repeated so often. We keep worrying about the same thing, right? We don't worry about 1,000 things, we worry about 10 things 10,000 times. Right? These perceptions become so ingrained, we call them automatic thoughts. They happen that quick. They're practiced in our mind, certain worries and anxieties that we have. So this is instructive because the way to become less anxious is to deal with these two unrealistic perceptions that we are developing and have ingrained in our minds by pushing back with reasonable estimations of our threats. We have threats. It's a tough world. We have a right to be worried about some things, but how much? How worried? How unrealistically worried or reasonably worried? We need to push back by having reasonable perceptions of our threats and reasonable estimation of our resources. So I want to give an example, a couple of examples of this. Have you ever heard yourself or others talk something along this line? I get anxious just thinking about what could happen. What if this happens? What if that happens? What would I do? I wouldn't know what to do. And you're off to the races. Right? Off to the races. We need to push back. Let's go to the next slide. With some good questions. And these are always good questions. What is the best that can happen? Because it could. It probably won't. What is the worst can happen? It could. It probably won't. What is likely to happen is probably what will happen, but not necessarily, right? And what is the best way to respond, whether I'm facing the worst, the best, or what's likely? What is the best way to respond? So if we start thinking these ways, we are going in a better direction than being unrealistic in our expectations. What would I do if the best happened? What would I do if the worst happened? What would I do if what's actually probably going to happen? You are no longer worrying at that point. You are actually planning and anticipating, which is good, right? So it gets your mind going in the right direction right off. When you try to accurately assess your threat and resources, anxiety calms down, and we have to practice pushing back against unrealistic perceptions. Let me give you another example of how this could work. Someone says, and maybe you have said this, I know I have, I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Something good happens, I can't accept it because I know what comes next. Something bad comes. Even if something good is happening, I get anxious when something good happens because I know something bad always follows. Some of you have been there, I can see. There it is, giving me that look. Well, you can push back with these good questions by asking yourself what is likely to happen. Mentally pushing back if we want to be less anxious. How? Ask a good question. If everything is good or bad, and that's the way warriors think, everything's black and white. It's not, but that's a false perception of our world. Everything's black and white. So if everything is either good or bad, since that's the way warriors think, and thinking, if everything is either good or bad, what is the probability that two good things will happen in a row? 50%, actually. Once something good happens, now what's the chance of good or bad happening next? 50%, it'll either be good or bad, right? If two bad things happen in a row, or if there's one bad thing, what's the chance of the next thing being good or bad? 50%. There's a 50% chance that good will always follow bad, and bad will always follow good, and there's also a 50% chance that good will follow good. So, it's normal that there's both good and bad in our life, and that they do follow each other eventually. They have to. There's only two choices, right? In an anxious mind, is good and bad. It's part of life. And furthermore, are good things completely good or are bad things completely bad? No, not usually. It's usually a mixture of things, of good and bad. So instead of fearing what is actually normal life and getting upset about it, why don't we just accept that this is the way it is for all of us? And that we're not something special, it happens this way, and so why don't we just make the best of both the good and the bad when it comes? It's going to come, we don't need to anticipate it, just let it happen because you can't stop it. So this is a more reasonable way to think about our anxieties, right? I'll give a third example before we go on to another slide. I had a client, an elderly male who was frail. They were frail. Their bones could snap if they fall down. They were frail. And They informed me that they would never be able to come back to counseling again because they decided that it was no longer safe to get in the car, because if there ever was a car wreck, they would be more injured than most people would be because of their frailty, which is probably true. And this person happened to be an accountant. I knew they loved numbers. And so I said, well, what's the chances of you getting in an accident going home today? Well, for a person who loves numbers, that was just what they wanted to work on. And so they calculated how many miles they had driven in their lifetime, how many accidents they had had, and they just laid it all out. For 20 minutes they worked on this mathematics. And they came back and they said, you know what, I'm going to keep coming back. I'm not going to get in an accident. I will die on an airplane before I get in an accident. So, what happened there? Where did his anxiety go and why? He began to push back with more measured, balanced, and reasonable perceptions of his threat. And he looked at his resources. Found out he actually was a very good driver. Now, it's the other people on the road, I know. But, ask some good questions. Try to look carefully at your perceptions of the threat and see. Let's go to slide 4. Oh, we already did. Okay. Well, that's sort of a summary of it. Accept life and make the best of it. Let's go to slide 5. Anxiety reducers. Okay. Besides the explanation of how to push back against anxiety, there's a host of things that you can do. And I want to look at some of these anxiety reducers. Next slide. In doing that, I want to explain that anxiety speeds you up. Deep breathing, which is an anxiety reducer, slows you down. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, perhaps not, how people who are anxious breathe. They breathe rapidly and shallowly. And every once in a while I hear them take it because their brain was running out of oxygen. And they had to breathe. Their body forced them to breathe. It's not good to breathe the way anxious people breathe. They breathe quickly and shallowly. They breathe enough that they can talk because it goes over the vocal cords and just into the top of the lungs, and there it stays because they don't fill their lungs up. It's the bottom of the lungs that feeds your brain. Until it gets to the bottom of the lungs, your brain's not getting oxygen. And that explains some of the things that have happened lately with the police on the neck and stuff. People still talking. They were talking. They said they couldn't breathe, but they're talking. Of course they can breathe. No. The air has to get to the bottom of the lungs, get to the brain. Anxious people are starving their brains of oxygen, clouding their thinking. And so deep breathing will get the air where it needs to be. It'll stretch out your core. Anxiety, we're often like this. You know, we're kind of tight. So what I want us to do is experience this. I'm sure you do deep breathing, but I want you to take in as much air as you can into your lungs and hold it for just a second or two and slowly let it out.
I teach a stretch and flex class.
Stretch and flex.
And we breathe.
You breathe in.
At the end of every section of doing things, we do 3 deep breathers. And by the time we're finished, I really push them to, some of them say,
yeah, at first people can't even deep breathe.
Yeah.
They're not used to it.
but you can, you learn.
So when you tell them to breathe, they breathe out of their nose?
They breathe in through their nose and out through their mouth.
Okay, thank you. In through the nose,
And
out
she
through
makes
the
us hold our breath for 2 minutes.
I just had a couple
That's
seconds.
reasonable.
Yeah. Well, you guys are advanced. Yeah. I never tried for a couple minutes. It's scary. But it'll bring your anxiety down and your blood pressure and other healthy benefits almost immediately by deep breathing. And this is something you should probably just work into your daily habits every 20 minutes. Take 10 seconds. I couldn't hold my breath for 2 minutes. So take 10 or 15 seconds and deep breathe. And your anxiety and blood pressure will begin to improve. It doesn't even cost you anything, right? You don't have to go to the doctor. It's free. It's just God's good air. And in your lungs, stretching out these muscles need to be stretched out. And that's what the full lung will do. Okay, let's move on to another stress reducer, which is getting grounded. It begins with deep breathing. And I want to explain this a little bit of getting grounded. Excuse me, I catch up with myself here. This is when anxiety is really becoming a problem. You need to do this. Okay? And the sooner you do it, the quicker. You need to be able to listen to your body and feel and know when it's getting anxious. The quicker you catch the anxiety, the more these techniques will work. The more you let the anxiety go, the less effective these things I'm saying will be. So as soon as there's any anxiety, you feel it, like I'm just getting anxious, you don't even have to have a reason. Start your deep breathing. And if that doesn't resolve it, you go to these grounded techniques. And getting grounded is based on neuroscience of the brain, where a lot of times anxious people, their mind is spinning with thoughts. Have you ever had a thought you can't get it out? It may be an ugly thought or an anxious thought or a fearful thought, and it just keeps going and going, and you can stand there for a very long time. Or maybe there's 2 or 3 thoughts that rotate. Depending on the nature of the thought, it could be called an intrusive thought, meaning it's not really your thought. Like, where did that come from? I don't even think that way, but there it is. It's in my mind. It's going around and around and around. It's an intrusive thought. It isn't your thought. Well, I'm going to get into where it came from, but it's not. It's an intrusive thought. Other thoughts are what we call ruminating thoughts. They are thoughts that are your thoughts. You are definitely worried about something, and it goes over. You play this record over and over and over. This is the sign of an anxious mind, really. And anxiety is taking over the mind. So the way our body is designed is the mind will receive data on a priority basis from your 5 senses. If you flood your mind with the 5 senses, these other ruminating, intrusive thoughts will have to be put on the back burner of your mind. Because your mind will process your 5 senses first. It's an alert system that is built into the way we were created, and it's beautiful. It saves us from a lot of danger. So getting grounded involves, after you deep breathe, and you need to get grounded because the anxiety maybe is growing, you engage each of your senses one at a time, as many of them as you can. Deep breathing is a good place to begin because you can listen to, because one of the senses, right, is hearing. So when you start to deep breathe, listen to the air come out of your mouth, right? In with the nose, out with the mouth. Could you hear me breathe? Mm-hmm. Listen to yourself breathe, and you're beginning to flood your mind with data. Yawning, I'm talking about breathing and yawning back there. I'm going to start yawning. And a lot of people will do this intuitively, the sense of touch when they're getting anxious. They'll remove their glasses, they'll go like this. They'll flood their eyes, the most sensitive, one of the sensitive areas in your body. It's intuitive. You're engaging one of your senses, or sometimes we'll go like this when we're anxious. It's an intuitive thing built in. We're engaging our senses. So listen to your breathing. Touch your face. Rub it. If you're prone to anxiety attacks or anxiety coming upon you and it bothers you, carry some mints or something very tangy or tarty in your pocket and put it on your tongue. Make it as tart or as tangy or as sweet or sour or something. We want a burst of taste on your tongue to activate and hit your brain. Smell is maybe one of the hardest ones to do on the fly. You're going down the sidewalk, you start to have an anxiety attack or something. But women can carry perfume, If you really are adventurous, have a little Vicks and put it right there, oh my gosh, it'll go right to your brain. That's good, that's what you're trying to actually do. And then for sight, I recommend if you're in a room and you're beginning to get anxious, I recommend you leave the room if you can. It might not be socially acceptable and you have to stay, but if you can leave, change your environment, and when you're rubbing and or you're doing this and you're listening to yourself breathe, use your sight. Your sight is one of your most reliable of your five senses. And begin to look at an object, like if I was in my living room, I would maybe look at a lamp. I would look at it as intently as I possibly can. Just every nuance of shadow and light and color, I would pay attention to it. I'm flooding my mind with details from my sense of sight. And what happens is all these data begin to go in the mind, and what it was ruminating on gets pushed to the back. And when I first heard this explained to me by another counselor, I can be skeptical about things. And I laughed. I said, that's quackery. Boy, did they tell me. And they said, well, you just try. You're hurting your clients if you don't give them these tools. And you know what? It works. It is simple. It costs almost nothing. But it actually works. And it's based on science as well. So I encourage you to breathe deeply and to get grounded if breathing deeply doesn't do it. Let me share another anxiety reducer, slide 8, mental imagery. And maybe you've already practiced this. In your mind, you go to your happy place, right? Some place that's certainly beautiful and safe. Those are the two requirements. Beautiful and safe. It could be an ocean beach, it could be the mountain, it could be a place when you were a child that you hid out in a playhouse or something. It could be anywhere. And if you can't think of such a place, you can make one up. In your imagination, go to your happy place and experience it. We don't want for you to just see it in your mind. I know the word imagery conveys seeing it, but we want you to experience it. Experiences. Well, how can I experience a place I'm not at? Close your eyes and begin to see it. And then fill in the other senses. I'm at the beach, that's my happy place, right? I can spend all the time there in the world, do nothing. I love it. And but I'm doing so much because I'm feeling the sun on my face. And when I go to my happy place, I feel the sun. I feel it more on this side than that side because it's shining over here. And I feel the breeze coming up my back. I just enjoy it. And I feel the sand on my feet. I want to sit down. I sit down in it. I hear the seagulls calling to each other. I see them fly by. I smell the ocean air. I love the ocean air to smell it. I can tell you what it's already happening to me, even though I'm in front of a crowd. I can feel my blood pressure, my anxiety going down right now. And I can see it in some of your eyes too. Mental imagery that you try to not just see but experience can be very healthy for you. And you can do this, again, without a cost of a single dime. There's no limit. You can do it many times a day or once a day. I encourage you, you'll get better at it as you do it. Okay. Any thoughts or questions or comments on mental imagery? Yes, Elizabeth.
Are you always alone when you're imagining?
That's a really good question. I have been. But I've always conceived of it as being alone, but does it have to be? Maybe not. A lot of times people get into mental imagery through having someone who's leading them through a guided meditation, just as I almost was doing to you. So in a sense, that person is with you, if they're leading you, if they're painting the picture and the experience for you, they're actually with you. What's your thought about it?
I tried to think of places, as you know, before, and I always felt empty without the other person.
Empty without another person. All right. Well, whatever makes you feel full and safe and warm is, I think, a positive. So have that other person. It could be a person who's living or a person who's not living. Or I guess it could be a multiple people if you really had a tight-knit family around the table with all your little children, and you could go there. Yeah, I never had that question. I think you probably could have upon reflection.
I just wanted to share, when you were talking about the deep breathing, something that I have learned recently that I have found very, very beneficial is that when you're, let me get this right, when you're breathing in, you're thinking your positive thought, like calm, and when you're breathing out, you're thinking your negative thought, tension or fear. And when I first started doing that, it was a little awkward. I felt a little odd, but I'm actually finding that it does trigger.
Okay.
It does trigger that positive thought process in your brain.
Good.
to add a little. I guess it's like adding your own guidance.
Yes.
to
You're
your
not just
meditation.
breathing air.
Yeah.
You're breathing in calmness, and you're breathing out tension. Good. That's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. Yes. Margaret?
This might be strange. I have a dog, a puppy dog I just love to death. And when I'm not feeling good or I'm down or
Okay.
angry, and I don't, whatever the mood is, I go to him.
Yep.
And he listens to me.
And who else
Unlike
listens
some
to you?
other people, don't want to listen to you. And that little tail of his is always going. And he looks at me like, I love you, I
Yes.
still love you, no matter what. And for
Super.
me, that is
Super.
such a highlight.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Animals can play such an important part in our health and in our enjoyment. In de-stressing us is exactly right. Exactly right. Probably a lot of people here would say yes to that. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I have a cat. He's not a little cat, he's a big old mean cat. And we fight with each other. I love it. Okay. Another stress reducer is exercise and movement, and I like to think of it as movement instead of exercise. I don't like exercise, but I do like movement. Get your body moving. And what happens when anxiety is working in your mind, it releases cortisones into your body. Fear and worry and anxiety releases cortisones, and cortisones are meant to give you energy to either fight or run. That's what they're there for. And so the anxiety turns on the alert system, produces cortisones, and but a lot of times people sit and worry. They're not burning the cortisones off, and the cortisones build up in their muscles, and their muscles begin to ache. They get sore muscle, like, I'm achy all over today. Have you been worrying? Oh yeah, I've been worrying. I've been sitting here worrying for all afternoon. Well, no wonder you're achy. If you're going to be in anxiety, you really need to move. You need to move your body. You don't have to do cardio, but movement of the body will help burn off the cortisones, and you will feel better if you just move a little bit. There are courses here in the lake, I think, of senior stretching by sitting. Maybe talk to Frances, she may know about this stuff. But you don't have to be an Olympian. You can just do a lot of stretching by sitting on a chair, and or simple standing. And I'm not going to go through it for you, but you can look it up. Do senior stretching. Google senior stretching, and that will give you a lot of good pointers about it. But move your body, and you will begin to burn up some of the anxiety that's inside of it. And the next slide, 10, mindfulness. How many of you have heard that term? All right, it's getting around more and more nowadays. And there's a lot of different definitions of what this is, and I myself am a little ambivalent. I'm not sure I fully know what it is, but you're giving attention to the present moment and accepting it without judgment. Worry tends to put you into tomorrow, or even yesterday. Sometimes you worry about what happened, and you're going to worry about what is going to happen. But mindfulness tries to get you to stay positive. It's the current rage in mental health. It has been for 10 years. It helps people stabilize their mood. What is it? Mindfulness and focusing your attention on the present moment, not what came before, not what you just did, not what's coming next, but right now in the moment, saying, here I am. I'm in this moment, and I'm trying to observe it, be part of it, experience it, and look for any good that's in it. I'm not trying to judge it, or I'm trying to accept who I am and the situation, what I'm doing. And it sounds a little theoretical and vague, doesn't it? But I'm just beginning to experiment with it. I got a book called Mindfulness Practices, this thick. And there's like 100 different strategies to how to deploy mindfulness in your life. And many of them are very, very simple. And I'm just trying them out on myself and my client. But one of my attempts to try to put this into practice, to experiment with it, was when I take a walk, I used to be very goal-directed. I'm going to get to the end of the circle. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to the end of the circle, I'm going to turn around and come back. And it's going to take me, 10 minutes. I tried to change my mind, but I'm going to observe some things on this circle that I usually just pass over. And do you know how many flowers are on my street? I never realized how many beautiful bushes and flowers and different colors. And it made my walk, I don't think it made it any more healthy, but it was much more enjoyable. And it elevated my mood more than, I'm going to get this done because I got something else to do when I get back home. Forget that. Just enjoy the moment. Just live in the moment more. And so, the best way, I think, I couldn't tell you all these strategies or go over them, and there's many, many of them. I will pause for a moment. Does any of you here use any mindfulness strategies?
Yes.
Could you, in the back, share, could you describe it briefly?
Pretty much what you said, just
Okay.
try to clear the mind and just be in the moment.
Okay, all right. And what is the consequence or result?
Calm.
Calm, okay. Peggy, you raise your
About
hand.
the same. Yeah, I've learned it recently because everything was going around in my head. And I learned to single in on the moment, what I
Okay.
was doing,
All right,
not worrying about what I had to do and so
All right.
forth. It's very calming.
all right. Again, it's not rocket science, it's simple, it's costless, but it is effective for many people, yes.
I don't really understand without judgment, the words without judgment, because I'm always trying to make sense of my world. So I'm always trying to find patterns and causes, and
Right,
maybe I'm just too active in my mind or something, but
yes.
the idea of doing something without judgment, tell me what that looks like, because I really don't understand.
I'm just going to let hit me whatever hits me. I'm not going to think about it, analyze it, or pick it out. Whatever comes to me, and I'm going to be open to it. I'm not filling my mind with preconceived. I'm going to think about my taxes as I'm walking.
Oh.
That's the old Tom Schaefer.
Yeah.
Okay. There's not a second wasted. I need to learn to waste some seconds for a greater good. And enjoy the moment, be in it, and not, I'm walking, and my mind's in the IRS. What good is that? That's terrible. So I need to I'm walking, feel it, be in the moment of walking. And one way I try to do that was just observe, instead of thinking, start observing the environment and just enjoying it. You know,
That's what I do in the morning, yeah.
Okay.
It's just enjoy God's world, and you're
Okay.
just so thankful you live in such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
You know,
All the beautiful colors we have. Right?
yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
So I guess it is sort of something you have to learn. It just may not be innate. You have to just, okay, I'm going to be a little more free-flowing in my thinking today. I'm not going to analyze, I'm just going to observe and accept. And see what it does, just experiment with it.
Turn off Fox News.
I'm gonna get to the news. Yeah.
She had a comment, I think.
Oh,
Well, I was just gonna say that I find music helps me to get into a good place, or I can just focus on that and
good.
be very mindful of what's going on in
Yes.
music. This is classical music, it's
Yeah.
not.
Good, that's excellent.
No, you're
That's
welcome.
excellent. The use of music.
Well, when I'm walking, before, I wanted to go as fast as I could go,
Yes.
and say go 4 miles in 20 minutes. Now I go for a walk, and I'm always meeting these lovely people with their dogs. And now they'll say, hi, how are you? So I stop
Yes.
and observe the dogs.
Yes.
And I must meet 5 at least. Maybe I didn't walk as fast,
Uh-huh.
but I felt better.
Yeah, you actually, mindfulness helps you feel better.
Because people wanted to talk, you could tell, they would just stop. So
Yes.
now I'm
Yeah. In a sense, we're communing. We can commune with God, we can commune with dogs, with our neighbor, with the vegetation. Communing comes from the word community. We're building
good.
community. With our work, we're building community. We're not running the world, we're part of it. I have an engineering background, I could run the world. Give up on that. So, if you want to know more about it, Google it, and mindfulness for seniors, or something like that. Mindful resource is the next one. Here's some places you could Google, the Mayo Clinic, and this is actually the name of an article that many have found helpful, tips for mindfulness and coping with anxiety. And then there's another Google that you could do, Mass Memorial Center for Mindfulness. And if you need to copy any of these down, I have copies of them after them. Moving to number 12, there are some meditation apps that some people have found helpful. And so these are apps. One is called Calm, and the other is called Headspace. And so what they'll do is, just as I was describing the ocean scene, you got people who really know what they're doing. From the sound of their voice, the tempo of their voice, maybe there's some music in the background, they can really put you in a place. and you,
I've used Calm and
Have it.
it definitely works.
yeah. And after you have someone do these, what I call guided meditations, you can learn to do it for yourself anywhere, anytime, too. So, sit in a nice chair, close your eyes, turn on your app, and just follow the meditation. This is not, well, I won't go into that, but the next slide, use of your free time. During the holiday season, you may not have as much, but use of free time for meaningful activities. Anxiety sort of ties our mind up, and we end up being very unintentional. We get distracted easily. Anxiety will run us here, then it'll run us there, and we don't do meaningful activities. We just go in circles a little bit when we're anxious. So here's some suggestions. It could be pages long, but audiobooks from the library. Or maybe you'd rather read the book yourself, but one way or another, my wife loves political history. Ask her about a president, she can tell you their background, as far back as Garfield. I mean, it's amazing, but it's a part of us desire to reduce stress. Journaling, how many of you journal? All right, several of you do. Great way to get it out of here and get it onto there and leave it. And you can come back if you want and read it, but get some of those thoughts out and maybe they'll stop going in circles. Put them down. Puzzles and games, that you see a lot of those around. Free online courses, you see more and more of these advertised for seniors. Check out Jimena, I don't know what they're offering now, but free online courses. Keep your mind active. Fill it with new things, and maybe be less time for worry. Cook something new. Now, I'm not going to cook anything. Some of you could. Just don't cook the same old thing. Do something new, you know. Make crafts. I'm not going to do that either. But some of you, that would be just a good way to lower the stress in your life.
And the library has a craft.
Do that. Okay. So there are groups that actually accommodate this, places and groups. That's great. And you all probably know more about that in this community than I do. And this last one, you was hitting on, Mark. Listen to less news. Gosh.
Good time.
I've never had the news calm me down. Or cheer me up. It just doesn't happen that way. It's designed to stimulate you and turn on your alert system. And it does. They're very good at it.
Especially with the weather.
Yeah. Yeah. So limit your news time to what matches your anxiety level. So
I just wanted to mention, by chance, you know how you're on YouTube and it takes you someplace else and it takes you someplace else? There's one called On the Road with So-and-so, and it's all these people doing good things. It's just so uplifting, and sometimes it's children, it's all different situations.
Okay.
And I think if you looked up On the Road, I think it's CBS, it's someplace I don't even use CBS, but it popped up on my screen. And schools now use it sometimes for children, so they see a whole, and I don't look at that news, but when it comes up on my feed, one of these after another happens, so you just think, the world is full of these good people who do things.
Yes, it does show you the other side, so good.
Otherwise you think of
Good,
the
so
other side, like it's
On the Road on YouTube. Listen to less news, do some news blackouts once in a while, go for a week without news. If something really big happens, you'll know. It'll be a buzz everywhere, you won't miss it. You're not going to miss out on anything. But find how much news you can take before it starts to just get to you a little, feel the stress in your body. You've had enough. Listen to your body. And then one thing that's not on the slide I want to mention, and that is the loss of loved ones. Holiday times is a very special time for that. What can you do to help maybe some of that sadness? Well, write down some favorite memories, put them into writing, and share them with family members when they come over. This is what I wrote about my brother Bill, who died 5 years ago. I'd like for you to read it, or share it with friends. Or you don't have to share it, but write down some of your memories of your loved ones, and visit a gravesite if there's a gravesite, and don't just run away from your grief or hide from it. Express it, get it out. Some people will give to a charity in memory of an individual. There's grief shares at Low Church and at other churches. Grief Share is a national program that a lot of churches sponsor. Seek counseling. So those are some thoughts, certainly not exhaustive, but grief often comes up during the holiday times. And I would say don't just push it down. Don't just run from it. Face it and go through it. And any thoughts on facing grief at the holiday times? Okay. Slide 14, maintain social networks. So call or email or text 2 to 3 people a day. Make sure you maintain social networks and contact with people. Don't isolate yourself. This isn't, I left the word visit off. You can certainly be with people too, I was presuming that. But ask for help when it's needed. Don't just say, I don't want to be a bother, I don't want to be a burden. Well, you're not. it's healthy for us to help one another. And if you deprive people of things they could do for you, then you're not doing them any favor, and you're not doing yourself any favors. So don't think of yourself as a burden. It's a terrible way to think of yourself. It's not. It's not true. We all have needs, and we're all here to help each other. So ask for help. Get involved in volunteering in the community. This is a wonderful, wonderful place, and probably every one of you are volunteering in something. That's very good for the health of the community and your personal health. And ask grandkids to set up video calls for you. Don't ask me.
Yes.
Oh, the joy of talking to that face on the screen there, even if it's just a little phone or something.
We're gonna say thank God for FaceTime.
Yeah, it really is I know all the bad things about technology, okay, but there's some good things about it, and it can really put you in contact with grandchildren and children and so forth, like never any generation before. So if you don't know how to do it, that's normal. You shouldn't know how to do it. Why should you know how to do it? Whoever taught you. This is a whole other language. Now Jack back there, he's good at it. But some people excel at it, most don't. So ask the grandkids to set it up for you. Ask them to help you buy the right device if you don't even have a device. If you don't have internet in your house, ask them how to get it done. Because it's really important that you stay in contact with your family, and face-to-face is better than voice-to-voice. So maintaining social contact also may do random acts of kindness. Just do something good for somebody. Pay it forward a little bit, and it'll help you stay connected. Connect with your faith at holiday times. Connect with your community, LOWLINC, Lions, book clubs, and so forth. Maintain your social network is the point. I have this last comment on that. We were made to be social. Can't sit back and wait on it to come to you. You have to go to it. You have to put forth the effort. There are friends out there, but you have to be friendly. Slide 15. Online support, and again, I have a copy of that if you need to copy it down afterwards, because there's a lot of information, it's hard to see. 7cups.com is a free online chat for emotional support. Emotionsanonymous.org, a non-professional group that focuses on well-being weekly. Supportgroups.com, you wouldn't know there are a million different kinds of support groups till you go to this place. Supportgroups.com, there's every support group imaginable. And this last one maybe not as important, virusanxiety.com, articles on and meditations on COVID. 16, and we're only going to 17, so we're getting towards the end. Holiday health thoughts. Shopping, it's a big deal, right? I watched my mom age through the shopping cycles of life, and she had died at 94 2 years ago. But some people really enjoy shopping and some hate it, but Christmas sometimes forces you into something. Maybe you don't enjoy it, maybe you can't even get out and do it, and maybe you don't even want to get out and do it because there are crowds in big box stores and so forth. That's perfectly normal and acceptable. I could say to you then, well, go online. Well, I don't go online, I don't get my credit card out. Okay, that's fine, don't. But I got something that you can do. Okay, it's going to take some time, not money. Because it's a gift of time. Choose in your family 2 or 3 people, or among your friends, it could be either, 2 or 3 people, and write a very special note to them that includes 2 ideas. Tell them your fondest memory of them. Go into the story of your fondest memory of this individual that you're going to write to, a time that you might have shared together with them. The second thing is give generous affirmation of what you consider to be their best qualities. And write this out in a nice card or a nice piece of paper. Don't do it online. Put it in writing, give thought to it, and send it in the mail the old-fashioned way. We all get Christmas cards, and you all know where they end up. Well, okay. Mine eventually end up in the trash, I'm sorry. But when someone has done this, and it's been rare, but it has happened, that's precious. I'm never throwing that away. This is what they think of me, this is how they remember me, and that is better than any gift you could get down at Walmart or anyplace else or online either. Just give them a gift of time and love, put it in writing, and it will mean so much to them, and they'll cherish it, they'll have it, they'll keep it, they won't give it away or throw it away. Also, friends, don't be alone for the holidays. You might say, well, everybody's going to everybody else's house and I'm alone. You're going to have a plan. Don't be alone. Maybe there's other people alone that you could be with. Or you can invite other people that are going to be alone over. Start now. Don't wait till December 1st to plan this. Or maybe you can form an alternate date for your family. Maybe they got to do what they got to do on the 25th or the 24th. Or maybe you could have Christmas in July. I don't know. Have it on December 10th. What's wrong with that? Celebrate Christmas with your friends and family. Don't let that go if at all possible. Keep your faith traditions. They are part of your strength, and build on them. Use them. Your church or synagogue or wherever. Faith is good for you. It'll help you in the holidays. Create some new traditions. How many of you have ever created any new tradition? Can you give an example of any of them? Yeah. Think of something new to do. Do it a new way.
How many what, huh?
Create a new tradition.
Well, I did.
Okay.
Instead of having everybody, our families have other things to do, so we can't. So I have a Christmas brunch on Christmas Eve morning.
Oh.
That way they could go and be with their friends or whatever, And
Christmas
and
Eve
frankly,
morning.
it's easier than fixing dinner, so.
Yeah. Christmas Eve morning.
That's what they
Okay.
done, yes.
New tradition.
Yeah.
They got all Christmas Eve and all Christmas Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
other-
Open gifts.
No, well, I only give money, so we don't have gifts
Okay.
anymore.
Okay, thank you, Francis, for that illustration of a new tradition. Could be an alternate date or alternate time. Last of all, cook some seasonal goodies and share them with others. You don't have to eat all of them. You can I could, but then I just eat it. But give it away. Go put it on somebody's doorstep, or ask them to come over and pick it up, or something. And then you're interacting. You're getting your body in motion by cooking, and there's so many good things, and just giving it to others. This last slide, when to seek support. Well, there's an order to this. I'm not sure it's on the slide. Begin with your family. Support comes first of all from your family. Now, the family may not be supportive, so you need to move on. But begin looking for support from your family, and move to your friends. You may or may not have support there. Move to your community. There's so many supportive groups and organizations in this place. We're enriched. Family, friends, community, faith. You'll find maybe support there among people that perhaps you have been involved in faith practices with, or most churches are equipped with some people that are willing to give you some support. And then if there's still further need, professional support. And if you may not be able to read it again. If you want the exact phone numbers and stuff, I got a copy of that slide, but I just want to read it to you. Peer-to-peer regional warm line. This is not a hotline. This is a warm line. It's run by peers, not professionals. It's 24/7, 365 a year. Confidential, any topic. There's your 883 number. Rappahannock Rapid Crisis Services. 24/7. So if you're feeling like, I just gotta talk to somebody, I just have to, and it's, 1 o'clock in the morning, I can't sleep, and I just need to talk to someone, this is what you call. This is what it's there for. They've had some level of training to respond to you. If things are really difficult, there's a suicide prevention lifeline where you can text or call. And Worthmore Counseling, Inc., Tom Schaefer, he'll answer your phone call and do what we can do. But there are other counselors in the community as well. Would be glad for you to reach out to them. If it happens to be around the season time, they'll go like, I was expecting these calls. That's pretty much what I had to share, Margaret. And if there's any comments, questions, or answers, do you want to do, or our time is up?
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.